กันแชร์เพื่อเราจะได้เป็นชุมชนคนรักข่าวด้วยกันและขอบคุณทุกท่านที่กดซุปเปอร์แชทซุปเปอร์สติ๊กเกอร์ให้กำลังใจกับทีมงานจะได้อยู่กันยาวๆยั่งยืนคนบ้าข่าวด้วยกันต้องเกาะติดร่วมกันตลอดไปครับ The student revolution in Bangladesh in July has become a worldwide sensation. The July Revolution in Bangladesh was a series of anti-government and pro-democracy protests in Bangladesh, spearheaded primarily by university students. Initially, they focused on restructuring the quota-based systems for government job recruitment. The movement then expanded against what many perceive as an authoritarian government when they carried out the July massacre of protesters and civilians. Most of them were students. Many experts confirm that the ouster of the Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina was totally unexpected because she had been such a powerful figure who had been in power successively for 15 years. She had established very firm political base in all areas of government. When the students started to protest, the demand was only about removing the quota of jobs so that university students could get jobs or better chances of getting good jobs. But as the protests progressed and as the government decided to use police to crack down on them, in some cases quite brutally, then it became a single demand protest, and that was the toppling of the Prime Minister. Recently, I had a chance to sit down with a very prominent journalist from Bangladesh, editor-in-chief of Daily Star, Mahfoud Anam, to tell me exactly what is happening, what has happened, what is happening, and what is going to happen to Bangladesh. Okay, Mahfoud, let's talk about Bangladesh. Tell me whether you were surprised at what happened, the so-called student revolution in Bangladesh. Were you surprised? Were you expecting it? Or were you really shocked?
I was totally surprised. I followed the thing almost daily, but never expected that a powerful government headed by a very, very powerful Prime Minister would collapse. And that is the word. You know, it really started from 15th of July.
Yes.
Before that, there were a lot of student movement,
Yes.
but on the 15th of July, the ruling party's Secretary General, his name is Obaidul Qadir, he announced that ruling party's student wing is good enough to handle all these students. So he let loose Chhatru League, which is the wing of the student ruling party. And they were allowed to attack the students with, some of them with weapons, not all, pistols and rifles, but most of them having machetes in their hand or, you know, sticks, very powerful sticks. Many of them were carrying baseball bats. The reason that they launched it like this was that previously, when this group would attack students or some public demonstration, they would usually prevail. But this time, the students and the public together resisted them. So they ran away. This was followed next day by police. So this student group of the ruling party and along with police started attacking, and that was also resisted. Then the police started firing. Many people got killed. So from the, you can say 16th or 17th of July, really a lot of massacre was happening on the streets of Dhaka.
Oh.
And so first police was called, then another paramilitary force called Rapid Action Battalion, RAB.
Yeah.
Then what we have another group called Border Guard Bangladesh, BGB.
Yes.
And they were brought from the border
Yes.
onto the streets of Dhaka. Now this was, I think, the fatal, all of this was mistake,
Yeah.
attacking the students, but this was the fatal mistake. Because these people who guard the border are not trained to handle, demonstration. So
Right.
they started firing, and this firing was absolutely shocking.
Yeah.
So in former British colonies like Pakistan, Bangladesh, India, the police engagement rule is that if you really have to fire,
Yeah.
you fire at the level of the feet,
That's true.
below the knee,
Yeah.
so that they are injured, but none of them fatally.
Yeah.
But we saw the bodies. They're all bullet wounds in the chest.
Oh.
So, first day, 6 students and public were killed. Second day, it was a bit of a lull. Third day, 18. Fourth day, like 26. Fifth, it kept on increasing to a level of 66 in one day.
Wow.
So, this totally transformed the student movement, which was originally meant for government jobs. Then they started demanding that government has to apologize, police has to be taken into, sort of punished for all this. So they turned into 8-point movement, then 9-point movement. But as the police kept on killing,
Yeah.
then on one sudden day, I think it was July last week, I forget the date,
Yeah.
they said, now we have only 1 point. The
One-
government must go.
One single demand.
One single demand.
The Prime Minister must go.
Prime Minister must go. The Prime Minister must go. And it was incredible. So then army was called. The army came, but army introduced curfew.
Yes.
But army didn't fire. They were controlling the streets. They had curfew. Now imagine a city in a peacetime
Yeah.
having curfew.
Right.
So this went on for a few days, but students started breaking the curfew. But army didn't fire, police fired other fires, but they started breaking the curfew. So on the 5th morning, when the whole government collapsed and our prime minister had to fly away to India, I came to office at 10:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
This was a curfew day, and I was thinking, oh my God, today some more students will die because they will break the curfew. So I was at the office at 10:30, and obviously things started evolving. I could see it on television and also on my my mobile. That at one point, I think about 12 o'clock,
Yeah.
the army just allowed the students to march on. The curfew was there, but the army suddenly took off the barriers,
Oh, okay.
and millions started gathering on the street, and they started going towards the Prime Minister's residence.
Right. We saw the pictures of the students breaking into the Prime Minister's
Right.
residence.
But, yes. So the army communicated to the Prime Minister that I'm sorry, you have to resign and you have to go. Now, I have not any personal information on this, but we heard later on through stories that the army said, if you really don't leave within the next 45 minutes,
Yeah.
the mob will come and attack your residence.
Oh.
So she had theoretically or practically, she had 45 minutes.
To leave.
She didn't want to go. Her sister tried to convince her. She didn't agree. Then her son, who lives in Washington, talked to her over the phone and persuaded her to accept. So she boarded a plane and then left for India. So the announcement was made that the army chief will speak to the nation. Which is also very unusual. An army chief never speaks to the mission, to the nation.
And we thought there was a coup, a military coup.
Yes, so when he was planning to sort of speak, it was all sort of speculation. So I think originally it was set at 2:30. I think 3 or 3:30. He finally came and said that the Prime Minister has resigned and she has gone to India and that students' demand has been to remove her and that Professor Yunus has been invited by the students to come and form a government. So that was really, this is on the 5th of August. And her government starts.
Well, the student demonstration started with a very regular demand, right? Well, it was totally non-political.
Yes, absolutely. And actually, it goes back quite a few years.
Yes.
It was in 2018. So students demanded the cancellation of quotas. Now the quota was at that time, all told, was 56%. So for every 100 jobs in the government, 56 were already under quota. So
for the children of the veterans.
Well, a part of it, the major part of it, 30% was for the children of the war veterans, the liberation war veterans. But there were 10% for minorities, another 10% for, so it was widely divided. So in 2018, there was a movement of the student and the Prime Minister actually abolished quota. So in a sense, the problem was solved back in 2008.
I mean, the students won.
Yes, totally.
Already.
But the student never wanted a total abolition. They wanted a reform, but she abolished it. So in a sense, you can say that she had sort of
given in to their demand.
But funnily, several years later, it is now revealed that some students that belong to her party went to the court and appealed against that decision. So the court, High Court, said that decision to abolish was unconstitutional.
Wow. Okay.
So it got the whole issue back. And that triggered the student movement. That look, she had abolished it, and the impression was that she herself, contrived through the court to get that abolished. So we are back to zero. That triggered, if you like, the second stage. And this, as I described before, went from severe to severe to severe. But in my view, if there was no firing on the students, such reckless firing, her government may have still stayed. But that turned the student around and said, no compromise, she has to go. So at that moment, the students started terming her government as fascist. So fascist government must go. Fascist government must go. And each day, the public demonstration was higher and bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's how it ended.
Student power in Bangladesh had never been really that influential or powerful.
Well, we have a very rich history. Now, if you go many, many years back, like when Pakistan was formed back in 1947, the demand for Bengali language as one of the state languages was started from the students, by the students of Dhaka University. So then that gathered momentum, and finally in Pakistan, Bengali was recognized as a national language because of the student movement. So then this went on. Then we had a martial law under General Ayub. Students sort of demonstrated against him, and then there was a demand by the students in 1962. Then there was formula by Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, the father of Bangladesh, about which is called 6 Point, backed by the student.
Right.
Then there was the student movement in 1969, which was a very massive student movement. Then it led to our liberation war, where students participated enormously. So the rich tradition. It was actually after the independence movement of Bangladesh that the student movement slightly, tapered off, but they were very much active in demolishing the autocratic regime of General Shah, which was in 1990. So there is a rich tradition.
Right. And it picked up because of Hasina's, would you say, autocratic rule?
Very much. I mean, first of all, the student movement was there, but why did the people join it? See, she got elected in 2008. A very free and fair election. But under what we call a caretaker government. Caretaker government is a system in which an elected government finishes its term. Then a caretaker government is brought into power for 3 months only. And within these 3 months, an election is held. So this experiment of holding election under a caretaker system worked, and people didn't object. So Hasina got elected in 2008 under this system, but then in 2011 she abolished it. So from now on, elections used to be held under the party in power. So this election, in 2008 she got elected under a caretaker regime. Next election was 2014 under a political party which was totally rigged. After that, another election in 2018 under her party, totally rigged. Third election in 2024, again under her party, and totally rigged. So if you imagine, in our country, you become a voter at the age of 18. So a young man or a woman who became 18 in 2014 could not vote in 14, in 18 and 24. So by 24, he or she was 33. So from the age of 18 to 33, he or she could never vote. So this really was in the hearts of the voters, hearts of the people. And so they were also waiting for a chance to really have their say. So students generated this movement through the jobs issue, quota issue. People joined in because of their accumulated frustration of not being able to vote. Plus, there were issues of corruption, misgovernance, abuse of power. So many things accumulated. But I think the biggest grievance was that people felt that their fundamental right to vote was taken away.
Hasina was in power for a total of
20 years.
20 years.
But 15 of it continuous. So 5 years first, then there was a gap. Then she became elected in 2008, and she continued for 3 terms, and then she got elected for a 4th term. When she was toppled,
there was no limit to terms.
In a parliamentary democracy, there is no limit to terms. So one of the demands of the student now is a constitutional amendment. It determined no prime minister can be elected for more than 2 terms. So this is one of the demands which the interim government is being asked to reform the constitution to implement.
Why was Muhammad Yunus asked to be the caretaker leader?
Okay, Yunus enjoys a popularity and an acceptability across the board. You see, his fame is from poverty alleviation through the program of microcredit. Then he got the Nobel Prize, and he became an international figure, and he continues to be highly decorated person in the whole world. I mean, he got his Nobel in 2006, which is like 18 years ago. And yet, he is still honored by presidents, prime ministers all over the world. So he enjoys it. Because of that, I don't know, Hasina had a special grudge against him. So she used to insult him, call him all sorts of names. But in the last 3-4 years, she started lodging legal cases against him. So he has been convicted by some dubious labor violation law, things like that.
Yeah.
So the fact that he was so much harassed added to his popularity. So when they forced Hasina to leave, there was no other person in the whole country who had such a wide reputation and wide acceptance. So that is why the natural choice became Professor Yunus.
So how is the country being governed now?
Well, it's an interim government, and there are many issues. Take for example the police, who did most of the firing, is hated by the students and by the public. So police now is hesitant about doing their jobs on the streets. So or as of today, maybe 50% or 60% police are on duty. The rest are hiding because they fear that if they are on the streets and some students recognize that they are the ones firing on them, they might be attacked. So that is an issue. And still, it's an unsteady and a destabilized environment. But it is being gradually brought into the stability. Each day is better than before, something like that. And his government, which now has 17, I think, or 18 cabinet level, they are called advisors, ministers, they are in power. And gradually he's getting a grip of it.
Who are the cabinet members? Where are they from?
Well, they are highly respected civilians, but they belong to the profession of law, many of them, and many of them are NGO leaders. So there is a bit of an issue or criticism that this whole society is not represented, only NGOs or lawyers or something like that. But he is correcting it as days go by.
You know Yunus quite well, and he recently met a few editors. What did he say during the meeting with the editors?
Well, he said that, listen, I am here at the beck and call of the students. This is not something I wanted or I ever expected. So now that I am here, help us, help me, help me. To understand what is the expectation of the people. For example, a very important thing is term of this interim government. Is it 1 year, 2 year, 3 year? It's not specified. So he asked the editors that please consult your readers and the public and try and give me an idea of how long.
He's seeking public opinion.
He's seeking public opinion. Secondly, that what should be the extent of my reforms, because there are demands for reforms in the constitution, with the police, with the bureaucracy, with financial institutions. One thing I must mention that under Sheikh Hasina, one of the biggest scandals have been in the banking sector. So many illegal loans were allowed, and banks now have what we call default loans, loans that are not repaid.
NPL we call it.
Okay.
Performing loans.
Okay, we also call it NPL. Popularly is default. So the amount of non-performing loans is so huge that banks are almost becoming bankrupt. And it happened during her time. So that is a big reform.
And those were related to the Prime Minister?
Absolutely. I'm not related in the related sense, but they were our cronies. They were our political supporters.
Cronies.
Yes, very much. I mean, and also, this you can't believe. I mean, banks were being taken over. There was one particular instance, the biggest bank in Bangladesh, the Islamic Bank. So one day, security agencies, under the direction of the Prime Minister, they brought in all their board of directors in a hotel. And on gunpoint, really on a gunpoint, these directors were forced to sign off their shares. The MD resigned, chairman resigned, and all that. And all sorts of new owners of the bank came up. I mean, it is robbery of the most incredible type. That you just take the directors, the owners, the shareholders, and force them to sign it out. So that's happened in one instance, which was the most dramatic. So the reforms in the bank, reforms with the police, with the bureaucracy, and particularly reforms with the political structure. The demand is that the Prime Minister's powers will have to be curtailed. There has to be a balance of power between the executive and the legislature. There is a very strong demand of independent judiciary. There is a very pro people or fundamental reform, for which you need experts to suggest amendments. So all these are on his table. How much of it he will take on is still an open question, because the more he takes on, the more time he will require to bring it to a closure. So that's where we are at the moment.
As a veteran journalist of Bangladesh, also at times catching with Hasina, the former Prime Minister, what do you think now?
Well, I feel a huge weight off my chest. I can now breathe freely and talk very freely. But I am also in the realm of a bit of an uncertainty. How successful Professor Nehrus will be, how effective his government will be, and how very, very professionally and properly he will be able to hold an election, which is actually the ultimate solution to the problem. That you hold an election, get the people's representative and hand over power to them, and then they're under touch. So here there's a big question that previously when political parties got elected through election, they then abused their power. So people and students demanded also amendments in the constitution so that even if a party gets a huge vote in the parliament, they just cannot rule as they wish. So more structure, more framework of good governance.
So it's not only that if you get a majority, you can do anything you want.
That's what we have been experiencing. So we want a prevention of that.
Well, as a political reporter all your life, this event was totally unprecedented, totally unexpected.
Unprecedented, unexpected, it took us all by surprise. Including, I think, the heroes of the revolution.
But the students must have prepared themselves some way or other, because to mobilize the students is not easy. So the role of social media in this revolution.
Absolutely. So this has been amazing. The way they organize. For example, we had a discussion with them. They said that we never selected one leader. Because we know that he or she will be arrested. So we had a group leadership. Minimum of 6. And in Dhaka. Then we had this replica of this system in every district, and then down the below. So we never knew the name of one student. Today somebody would appear as the coordinator. 2-3 days later another person would emerge as a coordinator. And this works. And their discipline, because we all know that ruling powerful parties, what they do is they arrest students, they oppress them, they torture them, and they try to split them. None of it worked this time. So one has to, one is amazed by their organizational ability and their unity, which was amazing.
So without social media, this might not have happened.
Not at all. So they had Facebook groups. They had Facebook group, they had WhatsApp group, they had other groups. That is why at one stage, the government closed down the social media. Internet was closed for 3-4 days, which cost the business world millions and millions of loss in business.
So in the end, this is quite historic for Bangladesh.
Quite historic, quite unprecedented, quite inexplicable. I mean, political party or guerrilla movements or leftist movements or terrorist movements, their aim is to capture power. These students, through civic movements, street demonstrations, has ended up capturing power. Now, they have got the government of their choice. The Prime Minister is their selection, and the other cabinet members are, of course, selection of the Prime Minister. The student leaders now have 2 cabinet posts. 2 cabinet posts.
Right.
And they have a lot of say in the policy.
Wow. And you mentioned that the information minister is only 26.
Yes, he's by.
And Yunus, the leader, is what,
84.
84. The leader is 84, information minister 26.
Yeah, that's the gap. Top old people, young people, in the middle, we are nowhere.
That's quite a combination.
That's very good.
And bridging the gap.
Yes.
Bridging the political gap for the first time. So we, of course, we hope for the best for Bangladesh.
And also, this is inspiring students in other countries of South Asia.
Yes.
If they can do it,
Oh, yeah. We don't know whether all these political leaders in other countries like it or not, but this is the true story from Bangladesh today.
Yes.
Thank you, Mahfouz. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
1.3 ล้านแล้วครับ Subscribers ผู้ติดตามสุทธิชัยไลฟ์ใน YouTube ขอบคุณทุกท่านช่วยกันแชร์ เพื่อเราจะได้เป็นชุมชนคนรักข่าวด้วยกัน และขอบคุณทุกท่านที่กด Super Chat